So welcome everyone. We are already starting and we do it in English. So not everyone is familiar with German, so we do it in English. So welcome everyone. I'm not sure, the first surprise is I'm not sure if everyone knows there is more a workshop. It's not only sitting down and getting 45 minutes input. So this means you need to work a little bit. And welcome everyone about the topic, how do we bring startup topics more into politics? And most of you know you're a founder or you're somehow related to the ecosystem. Everyone knows about the ESOP issues we have in Switzerland, which there are some rankings out in Europe where we are last position in Europe when it comes to employee shares. We have these visa issues sometimes. When you try to hire a third country employee, it's quite difficult, and there are some other smaller and bigger issues. And today we would like to spend these 45 minutes about thinking how we can bring these topics more into politics. And for that, we separated into 3 topics, and I will quickly explain what are the topics are and then how we proceed. My name is Raphael Tobler. I'm the president of the Swiss Startup Association. We are like a lobbying advocacy organization here in Switzerland. We have around 1,900 members. Officially, we started 10 years ago, but basically I started 5 years ago, or 4.5 years ago. And the vision was always to have a strong voice for the startup topics. What we see today, or the last years, if you have an issue with your startup and it's politically related, you are not able to fix it until you need it. So you need the solution tomorrow or next week. Everyone knows in Switzerland, politics takes that's very fast, 5 years or maybe 10 years. So in the local area, I live in Winterthur, it takes 1 or 2 or 3 years. If Canton, it needs 5 years. National, it needs maybe 10 years to solve the topics. So there it's clear we need a strong lobby organization like the Swiss Startup Association to make sure working behind the scene on that political topics to make sure we can improve it in 5 or in 10 years. And why is important? There are always discussions about should we be involved into politics as founders. I know if you're maybe in a B2C market or in B2B, can be a bit crucial if you stand out and talk about politics. But I think in general, as the startup family, we should engage more with politics because at the end of the day, they are doing the rules. The rules they have an impact on our company, sometimes smaller, sometimes bigger. So I think there it's quite important that we somehow engage with politics. And today we have 3 selected topics, and we will split then the room into 3 different groups, together with Regula, the CEO of the Swiss Startup Association, and Alicia, the CEO of the Startup Nights Winterthur, and together with me, we will a little bit moderate and then come back here 10 minutes before the end and quickly present the results or the outcomes or the results of the brainstorming. And we separated in 3 topics, and the first topic, Regula will moderate it, is the question or the brainstorming where you work on is how do we ensure that we increase the engagement of the founder community on political issues. Give you an example, everyone knows the farmers in Switzerland, very, very strong organization. We can discuss how important are the farmers for Switzerland. Yes, for sure, they are important. If they are so crazy important as they have members of the national parliament, I don't know. I think from our Bundesräte, 4 of them are farmers. So there we should bring more startup people. So if the farmers have an issue, they are crazy strong, bring their ideas, bring their visions into the society. We as the startup family, maybe I do a LinkedIn post, maybe some other do a LinkedIn posts. Who see this? The other startup founders, but for sure not the big society here in Switzerland. So that's the question number 1. How do we ensure that we increase the engagement of all of you when we have some political issues? For example, today there is a big Telekom-Verordnung they want to change, which would have a huge impact on, for example, Trima or Proton here in Switzerland. So basically they need to leave Switzerland if this new law is coming. So there we wouldn't have, or we would need a very strong voice to make everyone aware of it, for example, on social media or in your family and friends area. So here we are looking for ideas. How how we can make sure that all the founders and all the supporters of startup ecosystem, if there is an issue, they spread the word and they spread the message. Then the second topic is, how do we ensure that we have more politicians with an understanding of startup issues? André Silberschmidt, most of you know, he told me, Raphael, in Bern, nobody hates startups. Everyone basically likes startups. The issue is, nobody has a clue about startup. And that's a challenge. So we need to make sure, and we split it in A and B. One option is make sure every one of you, or everyone who attends the startup days, goes into politics. That's one option, because for sure all of you know what is a startup, what are the founding issues, tax issues, law issues, whatever. The second option, B, is how can we lobbying young politicians at an early stage? Because if I try to influence the senior people in Bern, that's quite difficult, because they have clear mind, they have already, they are settled in their role. But how we can maybe start to influence early stage young politicians, they are maybe 20, and everyone knows if you're today the president of the young SVP, the young SP, in 10 years you will be maybe member of the national parliament. So what kind of ideas we have to influence them? Maybe we can invite them, all the young boards of the young parties here in Switzerland, to the startup days. That would already be a very good idea to get them an impression about the startup topics. And then the third topic is, how do we ensure that all small and large problems of startups find their way to the Swiss Startup Association? I give you an example. There was a startup in Zurich, it's called Cradle. Maybe you don't know about. They are raised 60 millions already. They're doing some biotech, protein, AI stuff. I don't get it what they do, it's too complicated for me. But crazy deep tech startup. One of their founder was an American guy. They applied for the visa in Zurich. They thought it's a no-brainer. Then the canton of Zurich declined it. And I mean, that is a crazy decision. So they sent us an email and say, guys, we have an issue here with the canton of Zurich. Okay, I called the Amtschef of the canton of Zurich 7 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, there was a mistake. You need to approve the visa. He said, okay, I cannot say anything. Let's do a call tomorrow. We had a call with his approval chef for the visa. And I start to explain him, and he was like, yeah, you know, that's suspect. They have 30 million on the bank account, but zero revenue. Something is suspect. But I say, yeah, but the 30 revenue is coming from Index Venture, one of the most famous VC in Europe. If they invest, you already know that's going to be an amazing story. I said, Index who? I don't know, I never heard about. So, and 2 weeks later, the visa was approved. Very good example of the work of SSA, but we need to make sure that we get all the small and big issues that are in Switzerland about startups. So when you have a political issue and you see some regulations, they affect your business, we need to make sure that all these topics come into the SSA. We cannot solve all of that topic, but for us it's important when we discuss with politicians, we need some examples, we need some stories. If it's always Andri in the national parliament who says, that's shit, they say, yeah, Andri, you know, you're just a lobbyist for startups. So we need real example of issues that we have here in Switzerland. So that are the 3 groups. Regula will take care of group 1, Alicia group 2, and I am about group 3. And I think we split it now. You can choose. The goal is to make sure they are like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, so not everyone goes for the same topic. And officially we need to be back at 10.10 here. But I think as we started a little bit later, we meet here at 10:15 and we stretch a few minutes. The goal is to make sure that someone take notes. So the goal is to hand, after your brainstorming session, you hand an A4 paper to me, or Regula or Alicia, with all the notes about ideas that you have, and to make sure that someone presents quickly, 1 or 2 minutes, the most exciting ideas here in front of everyone. I think there are a lot of founders here, so no problem to find someone who presents. And then we will close it maybe with a quick sum up. And yeah, so now I recommend that Regula stays here in the room, and everyone who wants to go for topic number 1, how do we ensure that we increase the engagement of founders community on political issues, will then move to that corner together with Regula. Then topic number 2 is Alicia. I think as soon as we are done, Alicia, she quickly leaves the room and she takes care about how to ensure that we have more politicians with an understanding of startups, A, bringing founders into politics, or B, lobbying young politicians at an early stage. And I am leaving the room then as well, but please keep your seat, so then we see if we have 3 groups on the same size. How do we ensure that all the problems find their way to the Swiss Startup Association? Any question? I hope you already have some ideas in mind, hopefully. So then, Regula, please, on that side, and everyone who wants to join Regula, please join Regula. So please take a seat. We are nearly ready. Finishing our session. So maybe next time we enlarge the session for 2 or 5 hours, because there were so many ideas. Great spirit, at least in our group. So very, very positive, very interesting. And I directly would hand over to the presenter of the group number 1. You're doing it?
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I took so many notes. Is this on? Is it working? Okay. So we had. Thank you all for all these valuable inputs. One thing that was I think very important was you have to sort of make it really narrow it down. You have to basically create a template. You have to make everything ready to cook for founders. So if you want to engage them, do a LinkedIn post. Basically, you have to write the LinkedIn post for them. Not just ask them, would you write one, but write it and then just say, put your name in it. Get it ready. And also have very clear storytelling. You have to find the story, and the startups have to be able to make the case, this is the problem that we solve, and this is actually what it's giving the society. This is the benefit for the country or for the community, and then build a story around it. And this is also the problem that is being created on us, or that's what's holding us back, is this and this law. So really create a concrete case out of this. Then also that we need to go more into the verticals. We can't just one size fits all problem and solution. It has to be something, who are the different stakeholders, because we also heard for a startup and say, 80% of the topics aren't relevant for us right now. So we need to make sure that we get them where there is the problem, and also don't get lost in cluttered many things that are important for us, but not for selective startups. And then collaboration also with other cantons, other institutions, stakeholders, to make sure that we have an exchange, communication both ways, that we can bring topics to them, and vice versa, to say the innovation parks, and also tell them to collect topics that are relevant for startups. So we know is one thing that everybody agreed on, said, if you're just expecting somebody to post something in a Slack channel, that's never going to happen. You really have to do this in a personal level. Did I sum it up right? Any other remarks?
Thank you very much. And directly hand over to Alicia for group number 2.
We do it together because we had 2 questions. We had an A and a B question, and we split our group again into 2 pieces so that we can make it in this short time that we had. We had the question how we can ensure that we have more politicians with an understanding of what a startup is, because a startup is not just a new SME, it is totally different in how it works and what it needs. And the A question was more like, how can we bring founders in politics? And the big question was, how can we address the young politicians who are now going into this political career, so that they can basically over the years transform the political landscape with what they bring into it. I think I give you the mic first because you have the A question.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so our group was really thinking in a little bit of a high level way, and I think the most high level approach that we want to take is really targeting the specific parties. As you all know in politics, if one party is for something, you can be pretty sure that another party is going to be against it. We don't think that necessarily has to be the case for startups. We really think that there is an added value for all the parties, so we really want to do a little bit more of a targeted approach. So, for example, if we target SVP, UDC, the right-wing party, what you would have to emphasize is really the sovereignty of Switzerland, right? Keeping value creation in Switzerland, keeping our knowledge here, creating jobs here, and also bringing an example of successful tech startups, deep tech startups that are really keeping jobs here and are also an added value for Switzerland. So as we all know, SVP is really lobbying a lot for farmers. So you could really bring an ag tech startup to a national assembly for young politicians to really emphasize the added value also for right-wing parties. I think the middle parties like FDP, the Liberals, they're already very much on our side, but there also we can emphasize efficiency gains, also, tax gains when it comes to growth of startups. I think this is a pretty easy one. You can also emphasize examples like legal tech and so on. I think that probably really resonates in the middle. And then for the left, we really want to also emphasize the academic aspect of deep tech, right? So we know on the left we have an affinity to education, to academia, so really emphasizing, hey, this is coming from a scientific standpoint, and we're really trying to keep these scientific discoveries alive by bringing them to the market. And moreover, also emphasizing, hey, to really change the narrative of Switzerland when it comes to climate change, we need climate tech startups. So there, as an example, we could bring climate tech startups, how they are helping combat climate change. And then moreover, as you already mentioned, Raphael, really bringing these young politicians here to the startups, to the startup days, not only talking to startup founders, but also different kind of stakeholders like investors, like people like you that are really trying to bring this innovation ecosystem into the Swiss market.
Perfect, thank you very much. So we have even more to add to that. I try to keep it short. I think the main thing that I want to add is the exposure. You touched it already with your campaign and storytelling approach, but we said, okay, we could also make the politicians get more in touch with startups by having more technologies from startups in use in the public sector or in the political environment even, so that they not naturally get in touch with these things and see the value behind it. Then also information, like give them fast information that they can process faster than information that they get from other parties and like long texts. So make it fast, make it new, make it easy. And the next one is the involvement of potential founder politicians. To make it more of a value instead of a distraction, because oftentimes they say, I'm not going to go into politics because I don't have time for that. And I have to focus on my startup now. And one great idea that we had in our group, I think, yeah, you had it, Cyril, it was to basically connect pitching and lobbying, basically, because the startups could be pitching in an environment where the politicians are anyway, and then maybe have either bring alive again the government fund that was launched almost, or have, for example, InnoSwiss there and doing it in the political environment so that the politicians are already there and can listen to it also. Yeah, I will leave it with that.
Thank you. And then last but not least, Samuel, on the topic of how we can make sure that all the startup topics or the issues, when a startup have issues, they come to the Swiss Startup Association.
Thank you. And I mean, thanks for sharing like your latest point, because I'm also that kind of founder who's struggling throughout the day, and was asking myself, how do I find like the time to also like be active in politics? And this is what I really admire about you, Raphael, right? Going like both ways. We were discussing exactly the topics, how do smaller and bigger problems really end up at SSA. And I mean, in the end, there were like 3 main points we were discussing. One is making startups aware of the association itself, really. The second one was like educating them around the services, wins, quick wins, as also the stories. The third element was like forging strategic partnerships. For the first one, make it aware. I mean, obviously, many events are already happening with SSA and all the communities around that. We were also elaborating a bit more on the institutions, co-working places, but also like the ecosystems, so that they are physically a bit more present and that they can take that as a piggyback to reach their members and so on. We were also talking about universities, cantons, Wirtschaftsförderungen and so forth. And the second element of educating around the services and the wins, which are actually fairly cool, what Raf was sharing beforehand, was also one suggestion was like really setting up like a structured communication newsletter, but also structure of like platforms of, hey, what is really going on? That when you read that, right, and also me as a founder and a CA, these are the problems which are being solved. I mean, that kind of reminds me of maybe also having like a similar problem and then reaching out to that organization. And I mean, typical topics which I've also learned from the session before was like really from ESOP, tax, visa, and so forth, and some other regulations as we've learned from the telecom example. And there, one idea was really this element of these forging strategic partnerships, where these problems are actually popping up in the first place, right, with tax or legal companies and so on, and to kind of, we haven't gone like all the way, but to find a mechanism that these kind of institutions and companies do have a benefit when reaching, when like encountering this, actually reaching out to the organization to seek a certain support. So to not only do like the broadcast like element with the awareness, which I was discussing at the beginning, but also more like this strategic, very pointed approach. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Then basically that's the closing. I give a quick outlook or 2 important or informations. So most of you know we started as Startup Association. I mentioned it 4.5 years ago. So we started from zero. So it was just the idea of Simon Fuhrer, Gregory Nauen, and me. I was building Startup Nights. Simon Fuhrer was building Start Summit, and Gregory was building ETH Entrepreneur Club. And we said, hey, we need a national organization. And we want to try to focus on these public topics, but it was difficult at the beginning because nobody pays politics. You know, if I go to AXA and say, hey, we need sponsorship, you know, they say, yeah, you know, I need awareness, I need customers, but I don't pay any politics. But now we are a team of 5 employees, already doing all the operations, and on next Monday we have a new employee, full-time and focusing 100% on public affairs. So she will only focusing on politic topics, national and cantonal issues, so that gives really power to the Swiss Startup Association and all these politic issues. So that's very, very positive, and it was always one big goal to have this employee. So that's one good news, and the other good news is we will sum up all that issues, all that topics. We already on the way since a few months, together with all, or mostly all, other stakeholders in Switzerland, like SIGTIC, some cantons are involved, Startup Days are involved, Startup Nights are involved, whatever. A lot of organizations, we're working on like a manifest to put all that issues inside. What are the issues? And in the past, it was always a bit, yeah, you know, ESOP is shit in Switzerland. Okay, now we know, everyone knows that's shit. But now what's the solution and what we should do and what we can do and what's the time plan? So we are working now on that. And of course, all your inputs, we will collect them, we will summarize it up, we will bring it into the manifest. In some cases, we can solve it faster, or we can fix it faster. Some topics are maybe a little bit bigger and with a little bit more time. And for sure, there will be another politic session in 1 year again here at the Startup Days, and we can give an update on where we are And yeah, again, thanks a lot for all your inputs and all your thinking about how we improve the startup ecosystem. And if everyone wants some more information or is now motivated to join politics, so reach out. I'm part of FDP, but doesn't matter if you want to join another party. I'm happy to connect you because it's important that I have some good friends about startups in all parties. You know, if all the entrepreneurs are in FDP, that's not good because we need the other parties to solve the topic. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to make an intro. And thanks again and enjoy your day. Thank you very much.